So here again is our Scratch program with a dialogue between two characters. Just to remind you how it looks. Each character speaks for about 2 seconds and they take turns. And we're using a when I receive block and a broadcast block to make that happen. Now what we're going to do is show a way that we can speed things up or slow things down by simply changing this number here. If we want the conversation to happen really fast, we can change all these numbers that say 2 seconds. We can change them all to 1 second, and we'll see that the conversation happens really fast. So let's change them all to 1 second, not 12. 1. I said 1. There, 1. Now, click the green flag, and we'll see that the conversation happens really fast. Now, if we change each of these to, let's say, 4, then the conversation will happen very slowly. So both the scripts for the cat and the starfish are now at 4. We can see 4 for the starfish, and clicking on the cat, 4 for the cat. We click the green flag, and the conversation happens very slowly. Now, it's a little inconvenient to have to go and change all these numbers every time we want things to speed up or slow down. We might change our mind from time to time, and we may decide that if we already know the conversation pretty well, we want it to go fast. And if we're showing it to somebody who's seeing it for the first time, and they have to have some time to notice the little speech bubbles and read what they say, we may want it to go slowly. And it's sort of inconvenient to have to change all these numbers all the time. I wonder if there's a way that we could tell Scratch that we want to use the same number in every one of these little bubbles. And it turns out there is a way to do that. It's called a variable. We're going to click on this little bright orange box here and click where it says Make a Variable. We want a variable that's going to be a number. It's going to a box that stores a number, and that's the number we're going to use for the amount of time each character speaks. And we'll call that variable talking time because it's the time that each character is talking. And we're going to say that that variable is going to be for all sprites because the cat and the starfish are going to use the same one. We're going to click OK, and we see that we now have a little box up here. It has a name, talking time, and it has a value. That value right now is 0. Now, what we can do is we can come over here and we can add to our when green flag clicked, we can add set talking time to, and we can give it a number. Let's say right now that number is 2. And we can drag this up, set talking time to 2, and then every place that we have a 4 right now, we're going to take this little circle here, this little oval that says talking time, and we're going to drag it in on top of the 4. And it pops right in there. Now, notice that if I make a mistake and drag it on top of where it says how are you, then I can drag it back out, but Scratch, the program is going to replace my how are you text with the word hello. So I'll have to type how are you back in there again. So if you accidentally drop this in the wrong place, don't worry about it too much. Also, if I drag it on top of broadcast, it'll say broadcast talking time, which is not what I want. I'll have to drag it back out, and then I'll have to make sure that this has the right message in it. Actually, I don't want to broadcast Scratch's second turn here. When I receive Scratch's turn, I want to broadcast Starfish's second turn. So I'll change that back. If you drag one of these on top of one of these other boxes by mistake, it might change the value. So just make sure you look and see what the old values were before you start dragging over in case you make a mistake. So oopsie daisy, didn't mean to do that. Let's put that back there. And now we'll go back over to here, and let's drag our talking time in on top of the 4 as well. And now what we're going to see is that when I click the green flag, talking time is going to get set to 2, and it will use the value 2 for every one of these say blocks. It'll speak for talking time seconds. Talking time will be 2, because I'm going to set it to 2, and every one of these characters will speak for 2 seconds. Let's see how that works. So I click the green flag, and we see that talking time becomes 2, because I set talking time to 2, and they all take 2 seconds to talk. That's pretty good. Now, what else could I do? Well, I could make it go faster. I could just change this to 1, and I'll click the green flag, and now talking time became 1, and it goes really fast. I could make it go even faster by changing this to 0.5. You may have learned in school that 0.5 is the same as 1/2. It's half a second. And if I click on the green flag, now it's a really fast conversation. I could make it even faster by making this be 0.1. And now it's really fast. And it's a little bit too fast. What would 0.2 look like? Well, that's about as fast as we could probably go. But I think 0.5 is a little better. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's pretty fast. But we could also make it really slow. We could make it be 4 seconds. And now it's nice and slow. And the thing is, I only have to change it in one place, and then it changes everywhere. That's the real cool thing about variables, is that I can change them once, and everywhere I use it gets that same value. Now, another thing I can do is I can change this variable box here in my program. I can right-click on it and change it to a slider. Now, the slider is going to go between 0 and 100. I don't want it to be 0, because watch what happens if my talking time is 0. Actually, first of all, right now I have this set block in here. If I want it to use the slider value, I'm going to have to take that set block out. So let's take that out for the moment. And let's play it with a talking time of 0, and we're going to see that that's just no good. I mean, it just barely flickers. We can barely see what's going on. We need the value to be at least 1 for this to make any sense at all. We've seen that 0.5 is an okay value. Unfortunately, the slider won't let us choose a value of 0.5. We can only do whole numbers, or what you might have learned in school are called integers, like 1, 2, 3. I can, however, set the slider minimum and maximum. I can say my minimum value is 1. My maximum value, let's say, is 5, because we probably don't want to spend more than 5 seconds on any one of these turns. Now if I drag, I can only drag between 1 and 5. So that's a pretty good deal. Now I can click the green flag, and it's going with 2-second turns. And if I want to change the value, I can just change the value by dragging right here. What's cool about that is that I can be in presentation mode, and I can change the value right here without having to leave presentation mode. And that's pretty cool. So it's going a little slow. I can even speed it up while it's happening. Right in the middle of the program, I can speed it up. This is one of the reasons we call it a variable, because its value can vary. It can be 1, or it can be 2, or it can be 3. Since it can vary, we call it a variable. That makes sense. So finally, one thing I can also do with this variable is right here, this little click box allows me to either show or hide the variable. I can hide it. And there's also blocks that will let me show and hide a variable, like say when something is clicked or when I receive a message. I can hide it, so I can sort of bring it up, set the value I want, and then hide it. And then when I play my Scratch program, when I click the green flag, it will have the value that I set. So there's 2 seconds. And if I decide I don't like 2 seconds, I can go back, put it back on the stage, change it to 1, and then I can click my green flag and play it. And I can also, once again, click the checkbox to hide it, go into presentation mode, and play it. So those are some of the things you can do with variables, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of uses you can find for variables in your own Scratch programs.